Hello, my name is Pastor Kris Kollar. I'm the pastor of Pleasant Valley Lutheran Church near Malabar Farm State Park and St. Paul Lutheran Church in Lucas, Ohio. Greetings. We are reading through the Bible with commentary, and we are in the book of Job, the one that's spelled like Job but pronounced Job. And in the book of Job, he starts out, he's just as rich can be, as happy can be, has everything awesome, and in one day loses all of his wealth and all of his children. And then the next day he loses all of his health and he's covered with sores. And his lovely wife says, "Curse God and die." But he will not, because he is a righteous man. So his three friends come to visit. And the right thing that they do is they sit in silence for a week to just sit with him. After that, they didn't do so well. And they start sharing and they start talking and they start saying, "You must have sinned. You must be a sinner." Because we all know that God gives good things to good people and bad things to people who sin. And all the way through the book of Job, Job says, "No, I have not sinned. I am righteous. I have done the right thing. I've taken care of widows and orphans and taken care of people that are poor. I've taken care of all of the people that I should take care of. I am not unrighteous." And then in our previous session, we heard an interlude about where is wisdom found. And at the very end of that was that the fear of the Lord is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding. And then he continued with his defense. And we stopped at the end of chapter 29, but actually he was continuing his defense. And much of the book of Job, a friend speaks, Job replies, defends, complains to God, back and forth between his friends and he. Yesterday I stopped at the end of chapter 29, even though we are still in Job's defense. And Job is still saying that he is not unrighteous, that he has been taking care of the people he needs to take care of. So now we are in chapter 30 of Job. "But now they make sport of me, those who are younger than I." So yesterday we were saying that he would go to the gate and even the older people would stand up and younger people would listen. And now he's saying that everybody is making fun of him. "Whose fathers I would have disdained to set with the dogs of my flock. What could I gain from the strength of their hands? All their vigor is gone. Through want and hard hunger they gnaw the dry and desolate ground. They pick mallow and the leaves of bushes, and to warm themselves with the roots of the broom." So he's saying that people disdain him, that he would have, or the young people mock him, whose fathers he had nothing to do with, who he would disdain. And so he's describing these terrible people that he would have nothing to do with. Verse 5, "They are driven out from society. People shout after them as after a thief. In the gullies of the wadis they must live, in holes of the ground and in the rocks. Among the bushes they bray, under the nettles they huddle together, a senseless, disreputable brood. They have whipped out of the land. And now they mock me in song." So these terrible people that he had no respect for, no use for, that are just awful people, those people are mocking Job in sound. "I am a byword to them. They abhor me. They keep aloof from me. They do not hesitate to spit at the sight of me. Because God has loosed my bowstring and humbled me, they have cast off restraint in my presence. On my right hand the rabble rise up. They send me sprawling." They send the phone sprawling. Thank you for just sit there and hold it. Oh my goodness. And there's something on my phone, but that's okay. So my wonderful friend Pastor Lisa is with me today and is helping me. And my roommate that I was propping up the phone with just went sprawling, which is very ironic because that's where I was when they were saying, "On the right hand the rabble rise up. They send me sprawling and build roads for my ruin." Verse 13, "They break up my path. They promote my calamity. No one restrains them. As through a wide breach they come. Amid the crash they roll on." So Job is being attacked basically by everybody. "Terrors are turned upon me. My honor is pursued as by the wind, and my prosperity has passed away like a cloud." Your arm's going to get tired. Verse 16, and now my soul is poured out within me. Days of affliction have taken hold of me. The night racks my bones, and the pain that gnaws me takes no rest. With violence he seizes my garment. He grasps me by the collar of my tunic. He has cast me into the mire, and I have become like dust and ashes. What is this footnote? Oh, my garment is disfigured. Verse 20, I cry to you and you do not answer me. I'm pretty sure he's back to talking to God again. I stand and you merely look at me. You have turned cruel to me. With the might of your hand you persecute me. You lift me up on the wind. You make me ride on it. And you toss me about in the roar of the storm. I know that you will bring me to death, to the house appointed for all living. Surely one does not turn again to the needy when in disaster they cry for help. Did I not weep for those whose day was hard? Was not my soul grieved for the poor? So he's saying, I did good things for the poor people, and now you're going to send me to the place that all people go, which is to say to death, and I'm not going to be able to do anything for these people anymore. Verse 26, but I looked for good, evil came. When I waited for light, darkness came. My inward parts are in turmoil and are never still. Days of affliction come to meet me. And I think that verse 27, anybody who's having a really hard time, that they're just struggling with whatever's going on, is that not such a great way of how it feels? Your inward parts are in turmoil and never still. And you're just like, oh, everything's so awful. Verse 28, I go about in sunless gloom. I stand up in the assembly and cry for help. I am a brother of jackals and a companion of ostriches, out in the desert, all by himself, alone. My skin turns black and falls from me, and my bones burn with heat. My lyre is turned to mourning, and my pipe to the voice of those who weep. So he's all alone, he's miserable, and his skin is turning black. I guess he's out in the sun getting sunburned, or is that because of all the skin disease? That is not clear. Chapter 31. I have made a covenant with my eyes. How then could I look upon a virgin? What would my portion from God above? What would be my portion from God above, and my heritage from the Almighty on high? Does not calamity befall the unrighteous and disaster the workers of iniquity? Does he not see my ways and number all my steps? So he's saying, why would I look at a virgin? Why would I do something bad? Because I know God is going to be watching, and God punishes and does bad things to people who do bad. Verse 5, if I have walked with falsehood, and my foot has hurried to deceit, let me be weighed in a just balance, and let God know my integrity. If my step has turned aside from the way, and my heart has followed in my eyes, and if any spot has clung to my hands, then let me sow and another eat, and let what grows from me be rooted out. So if I've done these terrible things, that's fine. Let there be punishment. Let there be that I don't get what I sow. Verse 9, if my heart has been enticed by a woman, and if I have lain in wait at my neighbor's door, then let my wife grind for another, and let other men kneel over her. Ooh, that's vivid. For that would be a heinous crime. That would be a criminal offense. For that would be a fire consuming down to Abaddon, and it would burn to the root of all my harvest. So if I've done these terrible things, then fine, let terrible things happen. But he's saying I haven't done these terrible things. But if I had, I would be okay with being punished because I did terrible things, but I didn't do terrible things. Verse 13, if I have rejected the cause of my male or female slaves when they brought a complaint against me, what then shall I do when God rises up? When he makes inquiry, what shall I answer him? Does not he who made me in the womb make them? And did not one fashion us in the womb? So if his slaves were to have problems, does he not have to give them respect because God made both he and his people that work for him? Verse 16, if I have withheld anything that the poor desired, or have caused the eye of the widow to fail, or have eaten my morsel alone, and the orphan has not eaten from it, for from my youth I reared the orphan like a father, and from my mother's womb I guided the widow. From his mother's womb, how does that work? But He's basically saying he's been looking out for the widow. He's been looking out for the orphan. He's been looking out for the poor. He's doing the things that are considered the righteous things to be doing. And he's been doing them all his entire life. Verse 19, if I have seen anyone perish for lack of clothing, or a poor person without covering, whose loins whose loins have not blessed me, and who has not warmed with the fleece of my sheep, if I have raised my hand against the orphan, because I saw I had supporters at the gate, then let my shoulder blade fall from my shoulder. Oh, that's a cool curse to give somebody. Let your shoulder blade fall from your shoulder. And let my arm be broken from its socket. For I was in terror of calamity from God, and I could not have faced his majesty. If I had made gold my trust, or called fine gold my confidence, if I have rejoiced because my wealth was great, or because my hand had gotten much, if I had looked at the sun when it shone, or the moon moving in splendor, and my heart had been secretly enticed, and my mouth had kissed my hand, this also would be an iniquity to be punished by the judges, for I would have been false to God above. So if I had done all these terrible things, and if I had valued money more than people, then okay, but I haven't. Verse 29, if I have rejoiced at the ruin of those who hated me, or exulted when evil overtook them, I have not let my mouth sin by asking for their lives with a curse. So even when somebody hated him, he didn't curse them. Verse 31, if those of my tent ever said, oh, that we might be sated with his flesh, the stranger has not lodged in the street. I have opened my doors to the traveler. If I have concealed my transgressions as others do, by hiding my iniquity in my bosom, because I stood in great fear of the multitude, and the contempt of families terrified me, so that I kept silence and didn't go outdoors. Oh, that I had one to hear me. Here's my signature. Let the Almighty answer me. Oh, that I had the indictment written by my adversary. So come and talk to me, God. What do you have against me? What is your indictment? What am I guilty of? I have not done these things. If I had done these things, then fine, I could be punished, but I haven't. So I want to know what you have against me. Verse 36, surely I would carry it on my shoulder. I would bind it on me like a crown. I would give him an account of all my steps. Like a prince, I would approach him. If my land has cried out against me, and its furrows have wept together, if I have eaten its yield without payment, and caused the death of its owners, let thorns grow instead of wheat, and foul weeds instead of barley. The words of Job are ended. What's our time? Oh, it doesn't say on there? Well, I think this is actually a good place to pause, because from here, the words of Job are ended, and we have a new person. So there were three friends that we've heard from so far, Eliphaz, Bildad, and I can't think of the third one. But now we have a fourth person, Elihu, who is going to come and speak, and potentially he was younger than the other three. And we will start reading about Elihu on the next session. But basically, Job is like, I've not done anything wrong. I've taken care of widows, I've taken care of orphans, I've taken care of the poor, I've taken care of everybody who asks, I've taken care of the traveler, I've done everything that I could possibly do to be righteous and take care of people. What does God have against me? Why am I being punished? I want to know. I want to have that indictment and put it on my head like a crown. And if I have been guilty, then fine, let there be punishment. But he says, I haven't been guilty, so what's going on here? And isn't how we go sometimes? Things don't go our way, and we immediately want to know why. Why did this happen? And sometimes there is no answer. We don't get to know why. Sometimes this world is full of really hard things that have nothing to do with whether we were righteous or not righteous. Now, I think it is true that the more we follow God and the more we do what God likes, the better our lives do tend to go. But even if our lives tend to go better, sometimes things do not go the way we like them to go. But what is also appropriate is that he complains to God. We are allowed to complain to God. Every now and then I run into somebody who's like, oh no, I can't say anything. It's like, yes you can. You can tell God that you're miserable, that you're unhappy, that you don't like what's happening. And by talking to God, you're saying that He's there. You believe that God can hear you. You believe that God cares about what's happening to you. And you have a relationship with God, that you can talk to God and have that. That is actually an act of faith, to complain about things that we don't like. And most of the time it doesn't change anything, but it sure feels better to get it off our chest, doesn't it? So now may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make His face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord look at you with favor and give you peace. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Go in peace, like, subscribe, and comment, and we will see you again next time. Thanks for being here. And thank you to my friend Pastor Lisa, who is my camera person.